You heard the music. You know what that means. It's time to calibrate. I'm Marc Levesque. He's Brent Rubiar. And unfortunately, Bob could not join us today. I'm not sure exactly why, but he is tied up. Hopefully, he's okay. We were supposed to have a special guest today, someone from outside the watch industry, outside our nerdosphere, a singer songwriter by the name of Louis Amanti. He's a crooner type, similar to Michael Bublé, Frank Sinatra, and so forth. He's also a watch collector, which is how I got to know him. Unfortunately, something must have come up on his side, and he is a no-show. This is the first time this has ever happened. So unfortunately, Lewis was not able to attend, and maybe we'll be able to reschedule him another time because I think it'd be a fascinating conversation. He's someone that has over 5 million listens or downloads, or however that's calculated on Spotify. It's pretty popular, and he's even worked with Grammy award-winning producer David Foster, and has done some pretty amazing collaborations with like Flora Martinez and others. So hopefully we'll have him on sometime soon. In the meantime, Brett and I figured we're gonna have some fun here and just basically interview each other for the podcast. So there's no script this time. There's no outline or prepared questions. We're just going to wing it and see how that goes. So how's it going, Brent?
Not too bad, Mark. What do you got on wrist this morning?
I've got my Serica 5303-2, the white dial. I have absolutely fallen in love with this watch. I don't think I've worn much of anything else. I've worn my Grand Seiko a couple of times, but it's summer. It's stupid hot this summer. It's very humid. This watch is very light. The bracelet is like wearing butter. I mean, it's so soft, and it's infinitely adjustable. So if it does, my wrist does expand or it gets uncomfortable or whatever, I can just unsnap and snap it. And I don't know if you noticed, but and I talked to Serica about this at Intersect in LA 2 weeks ago. And the reason why I did is because someone came up to our booth, the Isotope booth, and mentioned he was wearing a Serica, and he said, "I love the watch, I love the strap," and he says, "But it's so difficult to put on and take off because of the way you have to pass the longer end through the buckle part." And I told him I swapped mine, so
Hmm.
I put the long end on this side, on the 12 o'clock side. I'm pointing at the watch as if people are watching me on the 12 o'clock side. And then I put the buckle part on the 6 o'clock side. And what that does is it allows me to feed it through while holding it and then closing it.
Wow, perfect.
It is so much easier to use. And I went and showed the guys at Serica, and they're like, "Oh, that's a good idea." And so I told that guy, and he was excited about getting home. But there's one thing about these watches: the tolerances where the lugs are so tight that taking the bracelet off, if you don't have one of those pincher type Bourgogne removers, if you're using a standard, little pick thing, is very difficult because it's very, very tight. It's just right in there, super solid. But once it's done, I mean, like I said, it's been a dream for me. I'm very happy with it. I always love white dials. It's been really precise. Everything hits the marks on the nose. Just a really cool watch. Very, very happy with it. What about you, Brent?
Well, that 5303 actually is probably a watch that I would like to add to my own collection. My problem with Serica, I think I've mentioned it on the show before, is I have a hard time just deciding. There's so many different models and even like iterations within the different collections that I think are fantastic. For example, the one that you're wearing right now, there's that pale blue. There's the black dial, which is very classic, could be an everyday watch. And then on the other side, there are field watches. I just love the California dial version of that too. So yeah, I have a great brand. And I really like that watch that you're wearing. This morning, because of the guest I thought we were going to have, I actually wore a watch that doesn't get an awful lot of wrist time. It's my 1976 Omega Genève. And I felt like
Oh,
if there's
wow.
anything I own in my collection that is crooner-like, this is probably the only one. I mean, I even joked on Instagram this morning that the only real dress watches that I own are really kind of sports watches that are elevated in some way because of the complication or the dial. I'm just not a big dress watch guy. This is probably out of, I hate to admit, 50 or so watches that I own, it's the only one that is really, technically speaking, a dress watch. And I'm wearing it on this Hirsch strap that I picked up at some, probably it was maybe back before the Bay actually went out of business. Just picked it up one day because I had the golden hardware, which I didn't own. It's the only gold watch I have, really. And so I put that on, and I'm kind of enjoying it, actually, to be honest.
Is that gold filled?
Yeah, gold filled. Yeah.
It's beautiful. What size is that?
This is a 37 millimeter, I
So
believe.
that's big for back then. That was
It
really
is
big
big.
because the
Yeah, it's
34,
kind of
35 was the norm.
oversized. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
oversized,
They used to call those jumbos or something
yeah.
back in the day.
Funny how times change.
Yeah, they sure have. I remember, oh boy, going back years, um, before way before the internet, early '90s. There used to be, well, they're still there. There's antique shops on Sherbrooke West, so west of the Carry the 15. So that I think it's Westmount part of Montreal, and you used to be able to go in and out of these antique shops, and these places would have boxes of old watches, and there'd be dozens of Omega Seamasters with the bigger lugs, some redialed, whatever. But
Okay.
no one knew what the value was of these things because there was no internet to do any research, and conditions everything, right? So how, they're just antique shops. They pick these up at estate sales, or people pass away and bring their parents' stuff and whatever. So they're selling for 100, $150. These antique Omegas, and I was young then. I was 19, 20 years old. No, 92. Yeah, 19, 20 years old. I didn't want a small little, but I should have picked up like 6 or 7 of them,
Yeah.
kept them. But anyways, yeah, they were all over the place, and it was cool to walk around. I remember seeing a chrono stop at a store once. I thought that was
Wow.
so cool, and it was sideways, the dial. It was a really, really cool watch.
Well, this one actually I picked up at the very first version of the Toronto Timepiece Show, actually.
Coin Watch Co.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of
Oh, do I remember that?
the
I
Toronto
remember
Timepiece
that
Show,
experience. I remember you buying that.
yeah, I bought that in a Longines actually, and I wear the Longines a little more often because it isn't gold, and most of what I wear otherwise, like my wedding ring and things like that, happen to be sort of like white gold or silver or whatnot, or even titanium sometimes. But this one doesn't get an awful lot of wear, but the Longines certainly does. But speaking of the timepiece show, that's just around the corner. I mean, the summer is basically half over now, which means that we
Boo.
are less than we are less than 2 full months away from the Toronto Timepiece Show. And I know that Jason has opened up the link there for people to get their tickets. So maybe we'll put that in the
Yep,
show notes.
will do.
But really looking forward to the Toronto Timepiece Show again this year. Of course, you'll be there in your
Yep,
capacity as Isotope North American brand manager.
yep.
So maybe that's my first question to you: is how's it going? What's it been like since you started that role?
It's been great. It's been uh, it's been challenging, managing 2 jobs at the same time. My full-time work as a supply chain manager, but, yeah, it's been really cool. Got to travel quite a bit, been to California. I just came back 2 weeks ago from Intersect in LA. We were in an Intersect in February. We did the Vancouver Timepiece Show, we did the Montreal Timepiece Show. We're gonna be doing Intersect in Charlotte in a couple weeks, right before the Toronto Timepiece Show, same month, so it's gonna be a challenging month. And then we've got Toronto, we've got Austin, Charlotte, Austin Intersect, and I think we're finishing up at the Hype in New York City. So it's been a lot of fun. We worked on a lot of projects also, been revamping the website. We're changing the about page for Isotope. All the information on it is accurate. Obviously, it shows his history with the company and so forth, but it needed a little tooling. It looks a little dated. So we fixed that. That's going to be up very soon. We've added a bunch of new watches as well throughout the year. A bunch of projects s- n- sort of put on hold only because the OVNIs started shipping.
Hmm.
So, we launched the OVNI last year at the end of August and September, and we sold about 150 of them
Okay.
during the open allocation time or whatever you want to call it. And so they all came at the same time, and Jose has been knee deep in shipping boxes all over the world, and it's been fun because a lot of people who've received them can join our Carbon 12 uh, club. So if you own an isotope, you can join the club,
Okay.
and it's for owners, and we have fun on there, talk about the new watches and joke around and stuff. And people have been dropping, and there's a little card that they get with the OVNI watch, inviting people to go, right? So when people do come on and say, hey, I got the OVNI this week. Here's my watch. I ask permission, and then I post it online. I say, there's been an OVNI sighting in California, or there's been an OVNI sighting in Portugal, or wherever. And I post their watch and a little alien and some music and stuff. So it's been fun. It's been really fun, man. It's been great. We were toying with the idea of doing some retail work, right? We were talking to Sam at J'aime Bijou. We were talking to Sébastien from Atelier Lou in Montreal, and we've sort of put everything on hold. And we were also talking to One Around for the Wind Up Shop. Uh, it, we're selling relatively quickly, and we just don't have the inventory to put in stores.
Yeah,
So we had to put everything on hold for now. I mean, our movements are difficult to acquire. We're not having that much trouble, but we're keeping up with our sales right now. So no one's waiting for anything. We're able to ship everything we need. It's just if we have to send a dozen watches or whatever to any to 3 different retailers, it's 36 watches we can't sell,
right.
or they're gonna have to sell at a retail counter location. So we're put that on hold for now. It's still something we want to do. We have a couple retail locations in Europe that we've had old relationships with, so that'll continue. Other than that, it's been good, man. We got a couple new projects coming on. I can't wait to show everyone. Jose dropped a hint this week on a gold colored Mercury, which is pretty cool.
I just saw that.
Yeah, it's a lot of people are gonna like that. And we got a couple of new moonshots as well in different colorways coming out. The Horizon just came out. That's been a really big hit at the shows. Um,
I love the Horizon. That colorway, I saw it for the first time when I was in Geneva, and I was really struck by it. And speaking of
mhm,
struck, I'm also struck by the Thunderclap,
yeah,
which is, of course, co-designed by a Canadian, actually, Teenage Grandpa. Yeah.
yeah. Teenage Grandpa, Matt Smith Johnson, who's a member of the Carbon 12 club, and he participates on there, and he's pretty funny. It's a good guy, and I think he does this charity racing cycling thing that we talked
Mhm.
about on our show together, and I think he just completed that and raised a whole bunch of money for some charity. So good for him.
I did. I saw that on Instagram just the other day. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So since the uh, Toronto Timepiece show is around the corner, that must mean that there's a new issue of the Calibrated Wrist around the corner as well, right? The magazine, the hard copy, physical, beautiful magazine. Oh, by the way, oh my God, who was I talking to? Um, yes, it was a guy from Elliot Brown.
Okay.
He told me that your magazine feels and looks better than any other publication he has handled in the watch industry.
You
And
know,
Guy has been around the watch business for 40 years,
40
worked for some
years. Yeah.
major brands, and has seen your Europa Star, Watch Time, you name it. So that's high praise, and I wanted to tell you.
Yeah, both Guy and Jem from Elliot Brown have been huge supporters from the very beginning. They and we've as a result we've also covered their stuff an awful lot. And you know what? What people don't realize, I think, with a brand like Elliot Brown in particular, is that they have a whole lot of low key ambassadors, not major stars or things like that, but people who are climbing Everest, people who are sailing around the world. And if you go onto their website, you check out their blog, there are some very cool blog posts about those things that these everyday adventurers are doing with Elliot Brown and with Elliot Brown's watches. But yeah, guy's fantastic, and he'd be a great person actually to have on the
Yeah,
show.
I've
He
already
and
talked to him
he,
about
he
that.
and Jem, yeah.
He's definitely Jem was recently on A Tale of Two Wristies,
Mhm.
and I believe she was on Scottish Watches as well. Guy has been on Scottish Watches multiple times. He and I've been in this for a long time too, so he and I just love to talk. And we just such a great guy. He's a good friend. Him and Piers from Pinion, we should have him as well on. A
Yeah.
great guy too. Has been around for a long time. Has associations with all kinds of people in Hollywood and so forth. Mm. Yeah, and we should have on Jonathan from Helicon.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
the brand. Yeah. Boy, I had a blank there. He's gonna kill me. Uh, him too has been around in the business for a long time, so it'd be great
Yeah.
to have him on.
No, this, yeah, and obviously, like you were asking about the physical copy of the magazine, and we are about to enter production. So August is actually a pretty busy month, particularly for Caroline because she does all the sort of layout, but also for me in terms of writing and farming out writing and photography and things like that. But our deadline is officially tomorrow, which pretty much means today for people to
Mm.
get their stuff in, their art, their assets, their ads, and all those kinds of things. It's going to look a little different this time because we're having a special autorologie section, kind of in tune with what the Toronto Timepiece Show is doing because they're going to have Grunfeld and they're going to have Alex Borgard. Now, Alex was, of course, the feature article in our last issue, but we haven't really ever talked about Grunfeld before and Shapiro and people like that. So we're going to try and get some good content in there about that sort of world. And we're actually going to go, I think, a little more in depth than we have in the past on particular brands, and sort of have longer, more in depth articles about those people behind the brands and about the brands themselves, and maybe a little bit less about the product itself. So we're looking forward to that.
It's similar to what Matt's doing for the Timepiece World Journal kind of thing.
Yeah, a little bit like that. And also, we have some adjacent articles that are going in. One of my favorite is actually, you probably know this guy, Daniel Wang from Wonger Bonger.
Longer bugger.
And yeah, and he's got a, I think it's like diminishing it to call it a used car dealership, because it sort of deals in very enthusiast driven vehicles, sometimes high end vehicles, like some fantastic, 2025 Z06 Corvettes and things like that, but also JDM models of strange, right wheel drive, BMWs and things like that. So I went out to his shop not too long ago, did a little interview, did a photo shoot. So we're
Drivana,
gonna,
right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we're gonna have an article about that and a few travel pieces and things. But definitely from now until the end of August, it's going to be a big push there for us. Yeah,
Yeah, I bet. I
yeah.
bet. I remember when I was writing for NSYNC, it was a bi-monthly publication.
Mhm.
So the closer we're getting to a published date, or the more intense it got. Like our deadlines were hard. Like there
Yeah,
was no, oh, I need a couple more days. There was none of that. It was, it
I-
had
you
to
know.
be, it was, yeah. So I can imagine once, it was twice a year.
Yeah, twice a year. And the big issue for us is that you got to get it in by a certain date in order to leave yourself enough time for the printing, and not just the printing, because we have a great printer, but any accidents or any things that go wrong along the way, and because
Logistics.
there's just so many things. You could try and list them and write them all down and say, okay, I think we've covered all those, and you'll learn five more every issue. So,
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
we like to sort of have it in the bag in advance, so that we have it in our possession, or we know that it's being shipped to arrive, for example, in Vancouver or Montreal, days in advance. So
Very cool. You're going to bring a bunch of copies to the Toronto Timepiece Show to distribute?
absolutely, we will have probably at least 500 at the show itself, plus the ones that go into the creator bags. And now we have a lot more subscribers than we used to, so a lot are going to be shipped out there. And because way to Geneva in the fall, we're going to try and maybe have it done just a little bit early to distribute a few while we're out there too. Yeah.
What's your subscribership? Can you share any numbers or?
Yeah, we have over 100 people that are subscribers to the magazine, which these days, I mean, that's a blessing and a curse, because, of course, right now with the situation that's in Iran, obviously shipping has jumped. And so if you take a look at something like a magazine, which might cost you, $11, $12 to ship to someone in the US, now gets a surcharge of $8 or $9 on top of that. And of course, our pricing for the subscription, it's free for people who are at the show, but our pricing for the subscription did not have that margin built into it.
Mm,
So we're for each one we mail out, we're probably losing a little bit on that particular magazine.
yeah.
So in any case,
And you know
that's
what?
life. That's not going to stay that way forever.
It's 100, but it's 100 diehard actual collectors. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah.
This
And I
quality.
mean, and that's what we sort of say is, like, no matter, you might have a magazine like Sharp that has 140,000 distribution, but of course they cover an awful lot of ground in that magazine. Great magazine, by the way.
Yep.
And of course the people that pick it up aren't necessarily watch enthusiasts, but it's pretty much a guarantee that when our magazine lands in the hands of somebody, it's somebody who's interested in watches. So the value is definitely there in that respect.
Absolutely.
So now you, of course, you've written for the magazine, you've written for the website, but you used to do a lot of writing before. Tell us a little bit about, like, your in sync days, etc.
Um, yeah, NSYNC was really cool. I got into that not as an accident, but when we were participating on timezone.com, we mentioned this during the Time Zone interview with Richard Page. Um, I was writing I was getting watches just to write about them because there was no free samples really. I was really just trading watches in order for me to write about them. So I was getting really eclectic stuff and a lot of fun, just getting, words on the page online. And at some point, I had like 30 articles written about watches on Time Zone. And I figured, what if I try to get paid to do this?
Mhm.
And so I reached out to, Watch Time didn't exist at the time. That was not it wasn't a magazine yet. So I reached out to Watches International, HR Watches, InSync Watches, Watches International in the UK.
Mhm.
Not that my writing was good enough to be published in the UK, but anyways. And I got 2 offers. I got one from, Watches International UK, go figure, after they read the stuff I wrote, so must be doing something okay. And I got an offer from InSync, and the InSync offer was, superior. I mean, it was 50 cents US a word,
Okay.
for a piece. Now, this is back in 1999 to 2005. The dollar was a dollar 50, dollar Canadian.
Mhm.
So that means a 1,500 word article was $750, was really like $1,200 Canadian. A 2,000 word article is $1,000. You know what I mean? Like it was $1,500. And I would often write 2,000 word articles because I mean, I would either do an interview combined with a review or something, or I'd go into a deep dive for it. And so it's good money. It was fantastic. And the beauty, this is my favorite part. So I had accepted to write for them. The publisher had gotten in touch with Richemont at the time. No, sorry, the Vendôme Group. I don't know if you know that, but that's way before. So Vendôme owned Panerai, and he made an arrangement for Panerai to send me a box with some watches. So okay. So at the time, both my wife and I worked, so I had it shipped to my office. And I remember, this is 1999. So I'm 27, sitting at my desk, and this giant box arrives, the front desk for me. Okay. So I pick it up, bring it back to my desk. Everybody's looking at me. What are you doing? I said, don't worry about it. So I open the giant box and I pull one box out, and it's a Panerai Luminor Marina, white face, 40 millimeters on bracelet. So this is pretty cool. I take out the other one, open it up. It's the new 1,000-meter submersible Panerai. So that's really cool. And it was like 46 millimeters. And I remember in 99, watches were just starting to get big. 46 was really out there. 46 square watch was really, really out there. Now, keep in mind, I was a lot bigger than I am now, and then so it fit right. I mean, I loved it. And then the third box I pulled out was a Radiomir in white gold
Wow.
on a croc strap. So it was about $40,000 worth of watches in one loan, and I'd never seen that. Like I never had in my possession that much money and watches at the same time. And, and they sent the full boxes, so those giant walnut boxes, and then the submersible was enormous. It was this giant. Anyways, that was really cool. And working for them was really really neat. I got to review a Cartier Pasha chronograph. I got to review a Parmigiani with a Lamagna. I forgot the number of movement, but it had a dual barrel, all skeletonized. It was gorgeous. I got to review a bunch of sports watches, and I did a long term review of the Omega Seamaster Professional that I actually owned. So I got to do, because I had it for a year or two already at that time, and I so long term form review. Um, yeah, that was great. From there, when in sync, things started getting a little more difficult. They had sent me the Breitling Navitimer 50th anniversary on bracelet, and UPS got their mitts on it and charged in sync like something like $2,700 in import fees. And it was a temporary import to get it into Canada.
Mhm.
And so after I was finished with it, I sent it back, and I don't think they ever got their money back. And it just started getting more and more difficult getting watches over the border. There's only so many brands that would lend out samples at the time in Canada, and it sort of just petered out. Like 2005, it started going away. And then there's this Brad Easterbrook. Does that name ever mean anything to you?
Can't say that it does.
Kind of took my job. He was in the U.S. He was writing online as well, and kind of reached out to them, and they, oh, this guy's in the U.S. Maybe we should work with him. And then but even though I kind of got screwed there, uh, the internet kind of killed their magazine. So payback is a bitch. But yeah, so their magazine's gone. From there, I was writing for myself online on my own blog, and I reached out to a bunch of brands, and there was a time where, boy, watches were coming in, and they weren't asking for them back. They were just sending me watches for me to promote and write about. And I was doing that way before a block to watch started, way before any of the Hodinkis. But I had a full-time job. I had 2 little kids. I couldn't just throw myself I should have, looking back, throw myself into it and started my own Warner Mound or my own Hodinkee and, would have been but anyways, it is what it is. So I did that for a long time until it got overwhelming, and then, I toned it down a little bit, and, yeah, just reviewed watches that I wanted to review on the side, and I did that for years and years and years until I started writing for Warner Wound, and that was just, Blake Bettner and I chatting, and, I had gotten my 50th anniversary, GMT Grand Seiko. I point behind me because it's on the winder over there, see? The winder you actually gave me right there.
Yeah.
Um, and I know the winders, spring drive, I have it on a very low setting. It winds maybe 600 times a day, which is what's recommended for a spring drive. Anyways, so I reached out. I was talking to Blake Bettner. I said it'd be pretty cool to put an article on my 50th birthday and how I acquired this watch. He said, sure, do it and send it to me. I told him, don't pay me for it. Just if it qualifies, publish it. And they paid me for it and they published it. And then they said, hey, you want to do this and then that? And next thing I know, I'm doing all kinds of press releases, a handful of reviews, and a lot of copywriting. And then I was working for the shop as well. I was doing a lot of the top 10 this or, how these work or how does a GMT function work and all non-authored articles on Warner One. I was doing a lot of most and then I was doing also partnership stuff. So Rado did a campaign with Warner Wound on the back to school or graduation, I think it was. No, it was graduation. So I wrote all the pieces for the graduation. They did all the graphics and artwork and stuff like that with Rado, and that was a cool piece. I did a couple others, Showfield and a bunch of others through the partnerships things. I even wrote some of the partnership blurbs for Instagram
Very cool.
for some of the. And it's fun to watch, fun to do. But that started getting really like I was writing almost every day,
Mhm.
and sometimes till 11 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. And doing copyright's cool when you're interested in the watch, right? When you get watch that excites you or something that you're fond of or you'd love to have, putting 500, 600 words on a page is easy. When it's a watch you're not inspired by, or the marketing that's sent to you with the watch is such garbage. I'm not going to name any names. It is so difficult to do 500, 600 words. You're trying to get away from the press release that they send you and trying to come up with your own words. And oh, you could sit hours in front of a blank page. Now I'm talking to a fellow writer. I'm sure he knows exactly what I'm talking about. So that got a little difficult. And then at one point, something just happened. I know that with the advent of AI and the AI overviews that you see on Google, right? When you search, I don't know, Oris, Aquis, you know, special edition, whatever,
Mhm.
you'll get a blurb from AI giving you most of the information you're looking for,
Right.
and no one's clicking through to the actual articles on the websites. Now, you do something different with your publication where you try to provide different stories and angles as well as superior photographs in order for people to come and visit, which is smart. Not to say that Warner One doesn't do spectacular photography, they do, but uh, it cut Warner One's traffic by a lot.
Mhm.
And I think they started working internally with a lot of articles. So a lot of their internal paid like employees were writing instead of outsourcing to freelancers. And so that started dwindling down. And then I, built a relationship with Jose, and that's how I wound up at Isotope. And I'm not writing for them. I write for you. Um, Basically, you've given me the opportunity to write about what I want to write about.
Mhm.
Like I choose, I'll if brands reach out to me and I'll say, look, if I can write a review on it and I can have it published on Calibrate Wrist. And it's been working out great because I get to play with the watches that I actually want to play with, and I get to wear them for a while, and then I collaborate with Bob. Bob gets the watch to photograph for me because he's a better photographer than I am, unless you're available or whatever. And then Bob gets the watch too, and he could do a video for his channel on the same watch, and at the same time, we can get Ross at the Covert Crow to do a video as well. So it's like you know, my words, Bob's pictures, Bob's videos, your calibrated wrist, Bob's website, YouTube channel, Ross's YouTube channel, all at the same time, all in one little package, and then watch, just handful of guys that know each other, and we all live fairly close to each other, so it's expensive to share.
I secretly call it the Canadian Watch Syndicate.
Yeah, it should be, or the cabal, or
Yeah.
or what? The Canadian. the faction or something, something funny, something cool. It'd be cool. But yeah, that's how that all started. What about you? How did you like? I know you were a teacher, you liked watches and all that stuff, and you got into it. But what launched the calibrated wrist? Was it because you had Caliber 321 on Instagram, which was doing really good? Started off with pictures of your hand in a canoe and sunsets, and then it sort of evolved, and the photography got better and better and better. What made you launch into a whole publication, online and then in print?
It's a story that goes back pretty far. If I could try to just encapsulate it, basically, like I've been writing for publications since I was 19 years old. Back in those days, it was for literary journals and magazines around the world. Here in Canada, it was mostly things like poetry, a lot of short stories, and then I ended up publishing my first novel back in 2008, I guess it was. So I've been writing really for years and years and years. And the photography kind of started when I was maybe 17, 18, when I started traveling for real. I mean, I grew up in a small town. I didn't really leave the country until I was 17 on a kind of school trip. And then after that, I was bitten by the travel bug and went backpacking in Europe. That's where I bought my very first camera, a 35 millimeter Casina film camera, obviously back in those days. And so I was really into photography for quite a while. And then, of course, there's only so many things you can balance in life. I continued writing, right up until this very day. But photography kind of fell by the wayside, and it wasn't really until probably the time that just before COVID hit, but certainly right after COVID hit, that I dove back into that kind of stuff. Caroline was already using the Fujifilm system, and she started with Nikon, etc. And she was doing a lot of great travel photography everywhere we went, whether it was Iceland or Ireland or whatever. She was publishing just little books for ourselves afterwards. Um, and way back in the day, Caroline and I published a magazine called The Backwater Review. We had a staff of about 4 or 5 people, and it was a literary magazine distributed across the country. So we had a little bit of, experience in publishing. We had a little bit of experience in photography and a lot of experience in something like writing. And then I guess we were so bored during COVID that I just took a photograph of a little wee Timex that I owned, a little skin diver from, again, I think it's actually the same year as the one I'm wearing today, 1976. And I thought, who wants to see a picture of a of a Timex? So I started that Instagram account which is still called Caliber 321, but originally even the website was called the Caliber 321, and that started about 2 years after that. Let's say maybe late 2021, but really 2022 is probably the year that we did a full year's worth of articles and all that kind of stuff. So I guess, the Instagram account grew very fast, especially because it was COVID. People had very little to do. There was a lot of followers that came very quickly, a lot of brands that were looking for an outlet because people weren't visiting ADs and things like that anymore. And then I got a really big break with Longines to cover the downhill, the FIS downhill in Lake Louise. And it was the first press trip I was ever on, for sure. And I think that I had just started the website. So I like really, there was very little content that was on there. I think ultimately Longines thought that maybe I lived out in Calgary and then realized only afterward that I didn't, but there wasn't a lot of, Canadian watch media that they were aware of. So I ended up getting the call and haven't looked back since. In fact, just prior to the very first Toronto Timepiece show, Jason Hutton and I sat down and we were talking about the growth of the magazine, like the online magazine, because I think in our first full year we had maybe 84,000 visits, and then it jumped, and suddenly I had 200 and maybe 224,000 visits or something like that the very next year. And I thought, if we're going to publish a magazine and we're going to continue with this, maybe Caliber 321 isn't the right name, because of trademark purposes, etc. So we changed the name that year, the Calibrated Wrist. I didn't know enough that time about website building to save all those backlinks and things that we had established. So we took a dive the next year to about 100, down to 192,000 reads, and then it just surged. The last 3 years have been incredible. We already this year have passed last year's total in terms of reads, and so we have another 5 6 months to go. And I'm shocked each and every day. How many people are starting to comment on the articles, how many visits each article are getting. Just as an example, we published a citizen article this week. It's already got 9,000 reads. That was unheard of 3 or 4 years ago. We just weren't getting that kind of traffic. So unlike some of those bigger magazines, which could only stand to lose because they were already so large, those apex magazines like Time and Tide and Fratello and Worn and Wound, um, they of course are struggling with AI. With us, it's almost been a boon because even if I will type something in and it'll scrape websites, sometimes I will see that it scrapes our website. But what's great about AI now is it tells you that, so if
Yeah,
people want to know more, they can click on that and we can actually see from our
where
analytics
it's coming
that
from.
people are visiting from ChatGPT, so it's very
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Very cool.
it was just a really, really, I want to say quick, but it doesn't, like, when I look back on that all the time, it doesn't feel, overly quick. It was we've now been retired 2 full years. So we've been able to dedicate full-time work to it. Certainly me, Caroline, maybe a little bit less so, but certainly me. And now there's a lot of people like you and Bob and Trevor and Stephen Nichols and Ken from Central Seconds and we just picked up Wesley Wright from Wes and Watches, who's doing a fantastic job for us. So we've got like really about 10 or 11 people that we can farm out to. And then Vincent from Mainspring Watch, he's been with us for years and he still writes for us periodically. So, it just feels like it's quite a nice little community. And, um, it is actually gaining year after year, and now exponentially. So I feel great about that.
Now here's a question. Are you busier now that you're retired or when you were doing your full-time job as a teacher?
So that's that's hard to quantify. So yeah, I guess the short answer is yeah. We're definitely busier now. When I was working full time, my day was very structured. So I knew that from such and such a time to such and such a time I was in front of students. I knew from this time to this time I was probably marking papers or planning classes, and then I knew that in my spare time I could do whatever was needed to do for the magazine, etc. And uh, when we retired, the idea was that, yeah, for 3 or 4 more years, I will continue working as a full-time employee, but for myself. And that's exactly what it has turned out to be. So like I've mentioned on the podcast before that I write about 4 hours a day. Sometimes it's a little bit more, and in and around that, I also do a lot of photography, obviously for the articles, but we also sell photography packages to brands. So sometimes brands will just reach out and ask for photography for their websites or for their social media. So I do that. Um, but the reason I say that's hard to quantify is that I don't really feel in the same way like that's work.
No,
And I
yeah, yeah,
think that
yeah.
when you hit that area, it just feels so good. Like, yeah, like you say, sometimes you get something and you think, oh, I've got to write about this, and it's not necessarily exciting me the way that yesterday's work did. But on the whole, um, what I'm doing now is a choice. I don't have to do it. I do it because I absolutely love it. And like you say, my photography was getting better and better. That was a hobby. Writing is a hobby, and now it's become a vocation. So like, it's a hobby that brings in income. It's a hobby that seems more meaningful now because people are reading it
Yeah.
or viewing it, etc. So yeah, I can't imagine myself stopping anytime soon. So I can't
Yeah.
complain about the fact that I'm busy.
I complained about the blank page, but in the end, it's still writing about watches,
Yeah, it's true.
which is fun, right? Eh, you think that after seeing a bazillion watches and handling and fondling and owning, you get sick of it, but I still am not sick of it. And it's been 30 plus years.
Yeah.
So I don't foresee ever getting sick of it. And it's just like pizza, you know? It might be bad pizza, but it's still pizza.
You know, uh, I think in the last 5 or 6 years, I've probably taken over 100,000 photographs. Obviously, not all of those are published because not all of them are good, but
That's a lot of
it's an
pictures.
awful lot of pictures, and, when I take a look at the website, like, we earlier this year, we surpassed 1,000,000 views, all-time views. And yet this year alone, we're gonna hit over 500,000. So, and then, uh, WordPress gave me a little wee sticker the other day, which WordPress is great. It, tries to gamify your experience, but and it said, "You've now written, 60,000 words," and which is a novel. And I laughed and I thought, "Well, that's my next novel, I guess,"
Yeah. I use Grammarly, when I write. It just checks punctuation and it keeps me on track if I'm writing in Canadian or if I'm writing American, you know what I mean, with the differences
Yeah.
in languages.
Mhm.
And every once in a while, I'll get an email from Grammarly saying, "I'm 85% more accurate than most of the users," or "I use 90% more distinct words." And then I recently got it. "You've written 280,000 words in the last 6 months," or whatever it is. So it's like you said, they're trying to gamify the thing. Now I don't even look at it anymore. At first, like, yeah, like, this is pretty cool. And now it's just careless. But
So let me ask, Mark, since this is a watch podcast,
yeah,
what's on your radar lately? Not necessarily to purchase, but what's kind of exciting you in the watch sphere right now?
a good question. As far as personal collecting wise, I don't know. This Serica is kind of spoiling me because it's so comfortable that when I put my Findyson on, it's big, it's heavy. Although they're going to be sending me the new bracelet soon because the clasp on this one's very big and there's no female end link, so he's going to swap it out and hopefully that makes it a little more comfortable. Um, I don't know. I'm not really after anything. I mean, I'd love to somehow get either a Tudor Ultra Pelagos or um, the Omega Planet Ocean. Those two are still high up on my list, but I'd have to liquidate a bunch of stuff,
Mhm,
and I'm not ready to do that now. I'm still actively searching, like all of us dum dums do, either Watch Recon or Chrono 24 or Kijiji or Can Watch Go, just looking in case something pops up that's interesting. I'd love to have a rainbow chronograph from the late 90s, early 2000s.
mhm,
I don't know what's involved in owning a neo vintage watch if it needs to be serviced or repaired. I mean, that's a pretty complex movement. It's not the most robust.
mhm.
Um, and it can be very expensive if you find one in really, really good condition. Our friend James Fournier got one. I mentioned this on the podcast before, and he got it for a really good price in Japan, and it had been serviced by Zenith, so I had all the paperwork and everything. And I played with it. But the import fees and everything else that came along with it made it expensive, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. I really don't have. We play with so many watches, and oftentimes just getting in a watch for review kind of satiates the need for something new because you're always after the next dopamine hit, right? And recently, just it came in was the Erebus Origin with the glowing full glow dial, and this has been a lot of fun. I mean, this thing is where I got. Oh no, I don't have it here. I don't know if I can loom it up with this old torch, but holy crap! I don't know if you can see that, but
Yeah.
in the dark, this thing is a freaking torch. In fact, the first night I wore it, I got in trouble. My wife was like, "Oh no, 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 you're not wearing that to bed tonight. No, 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 you're gonna turn over and it's gonna wake me up. No, 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 no." So I can't. I've been forbidden from wearing this at night, but it's been a lot of fun. It's super accurate. Bezel action is amazing. It's nice. It's really thin. It's like 12 millimeters thin with a dome crystal too. It's kind of cool. They
Mm.
didn't have that before. And nice little clasp. They shortened it on the and a Jubilee or sorry J style bracelet. Um, no, it's been a lot of fun. So this is getting watches in for review and playing with new stuff helps with the wanting that dopamine hit. I also did a little do-it-yourself work on my G-Shock Square. You probably saw
Saw
that
that on
on
Instagram, yeah.
Instagram. So when I got this watch, this was also from James Fournier. We had done a little trade. Uh, I liked it. I loved it. It's a great watch, but the head was polished and the bracelet was brushed. I don't understand why they do that. I mean, our friend uh, um, Andrew from Seal Instruments calls it the Cyclone look. Cyclones from Battlestar Galactica,
Yeah.
the shiny and the black. Anyways, so I went and brushed the head myself. I couldn't brush it in a vertical manner like the bracelet because I couldn't get close enough to the bezel of the case. So I brushed it vertically, and it looked okay. It did look like it was hand done, but at least it toned it down to match the bracelet. And I lived with it that way, and I got a couple scratches, and it started looking better with time, you know. And then when I was in California at the intersect there, a dude came up to the table with a G Shock like mine, but the newer version with the one that can has sensors on the back. Um, and his had been worked on by a metal worker, and that metal worker had hand peened the case and the bracelet, had acid etched corners and
I
things.
saw
It
the
it
photo.
looked so good, and apparently every table he visited asked to be shown the watch. I mean, it was that impressive, and there's a picture on my Instagram with it. So I figured if he could do that to it, and this watch is easily disassemblable. That's a word. There's a couple of screws. The bracelet comes off. You can take out the push buttons mechanism for the clasp. You can take out the swing arm for the clasp, and so you just got the shell for the clasp and the two pieces, the two sides of the bracelet, and then the metal shell that goes over the module. Take all that out, and I had gotten some rocks for the driveway and the stairs because we have a lot of critters that come and feed around our property, and we didn't want to get rock salt or anything poisonous, or so we got little rocks, little pebbles, and I had a bag left over, these tiny little pebbles, and I said, can I stonewash? Not necessarily bead blast, but stonewash. I don't know if you have any. You're a knife collector. I saw a
Knife,
knife
yeah.
article on your website, but a nice stonewash on steel looks really good. It's got some veins in the stone, and it looks really nice. And there's no edge to retain on this thing. It's, if it dulls some edges, doesn't matter. It's going to still look good. And so I did that. I had a jar of mayo that we just finished. I cleaned it all out, so it's nice, and it's the Costco size mayo. So it's giant, big jar. And so I filled it 3/4 with those rock things, put all the bits of the watch in there, and then I shook it. And in my mind, I'm thinking these rocks are going to dent and maim, and they're going to. I did it anyways. I shook the crap out of it the first time, and it was okay. It was the finish was nice, and 15, 20 minutes they said to try it. So I was pretty pooped after 15, 20 minutes of vigorous shaking, and it's hot here too, so I was sweating up. Anyways, so I did that. It looked okay, and I said, "Well, I'm gonna try it again." You know? And so I did it, and then what I did is I wouldn't shake it 15 minutes. I just shake it for a few minutes, put it down, work, then shake it another again. So I did it all day, and I love the finish. I thought that, the writing on the bezel, where it says protection G-Shock would be gone because the rocks would pound the crap out of. Man, it is stainless steel is so unbelievably resilient.
It's tough.
And it's still, very much deeply engraved on there with the name and everything. No, it hasn't lost any shape at all, but the finish is uniform all around, and it's darker now, and I just absolutely love the way it came out. The clasp is really, really incredible. I don't know if you can see it on, but the clasp really came out.
Yeah.
Focus it, but anyways, yeah, I really love it. I think it's fantastic. It does feel a little, not as smooth, or it's still smooth. It just feels different, and somehow all the little polished circles, on the bracelet and on the case, those are still polished in there. And the cracks, the little grooves on the case are still polished. Yeah, very happy with it. I'm gonna be wearing a whole lot more now. Another trick that I've found with the G Shocks, these ones in particular, and I told Adam Quinones because he posted a picture with his daughter Dork 2 on Instagram, and she was wearing it, and it looked a little odd because if these links flare out really wide on the case, right? But inside the structure here on the lugs where the screw bar is, there's a tube that the screws go into. And that forces these links to go this way. If you take out the tube and just put the screw bars directly in, you now have a little more play.
Huh.
And now it fits on my wrist a lot better. I have a 7.5-inch wrist, and it was flaring out on both sides. Now it doesn't. Now it curves around my wrist. So I told Adam that trick yesterday night, or it was the day before, and he's going to try it out. But yeah, it adds a little more play into the links, and that helps a lot. Yeah, cool watch, man. This is my wife and I volunteer at a Burke Sanctuary on Saturdays where we clean out enclosures and feed birds, and it's a rehab center for wildlife. And I want to wear a watch. I've worn my Fortis a couple of times, but I'm always very careful. I don't want to wear my Serica or anything else. This thing comes with me, and I literally don't care.
Mhm.
I'll stick my arms in wood bins and uh, you know, everywhere, metal cages. Like, I don't give a shit. If it gets scratched, it's just gonna look better. I got to the point though, where I'm not as precious. Like my Grand Seiko has scratches all over the bracelet. And I think it looks cool because all the scratches are mine,
Yeah,
and it's even. That first scratch looks like shit. The second one looks just as bad. But once the clasp and the bracelet have a bunch of scars, I find it just looks like it's supposed to look. You know?
that's like my aerospace. Yeah,
Yeah,
same
probably
thing.
just like your airspace.
Yeah.
It probably looks like $1 million now. It's your watch. My old boss at La Boutique Électronique when I talked about, oh no, we talked about this off air before. I worked at an electronics store when I was a kid, and my boss had a bluesy, a Submariner blue with the gold, tones. It's a two-tone watch, and he was all scratched when I had met him, and I thought it looked so good. I didn't even know it was scratched. It just looked duller,
Mhm.
the gold, and I thought it looked lived in. It looked like, he wore the watch, enjoyed the watch, and never took it off. Like, it was just amazing. And then he had it serviced at one point because, after a few years, you want to get your mechanical watch serviced. And Rolex obviously brought it back to factory, reset. So I came back all shiny. I'm like, oh, that's not this at all. Like, it's ostentatious. It's gaudy. I don't. I
Mhm.
just I didn't like it anymore. I mean, it was beautiful, but it just wasn't something I'd want to wear. But the way it was
Mhm.
before was. That's why I actually had gotten a Tudor Black Bay two-toned, not the dive one, the regular one,
Yeah.
because the gold capped and the solid gold bezel were brushed, and it looked really, really good. I thought it looked fantastic compared to polished gold.
Very cool.
But I'll throw the question right back at you. What's on the horizon for you? Anything you're hunting for? Any projects you're working on?
I think I say this almost every time someone asks me that question, and that's that I have to get rid of a bunch of watches, really. First of all, it would give me a lot more disposable income to play with, for sure. But also just because whether they're nice watches or not, they're just not being worn. My problem is that I'm hesitant to waste my time doing that kind of photography, posting those where they need to be posted on Chrono 24, Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace, wherever. The point is that you got to put a lot of legwork into that, and then you got to start answering the crazies. The ones who are lowballing you, or really they're not interested, and so as a result, I kind of talked myself into um, well, you don't have the time for that right now. So, but I do really have to get rid of a bunch, I think. Um, that being said, I mean, there's always things that I'm interested in. And a lot of them really are coming down to independent producers. Like, I think Strom is making amazing stuff. I think Serica is making amazing stuff. I would love to own an Awake, the dials, and that would be probably my first a modern or contemporary dress watch purchase like that. But also they've done really cool stuff at their case. They pumped it up to 100 meters of water resistance and screw down crown and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of cool value in there as well. Um, you know, I think too. There are some pieces, even from Isotope, and this is not for the $20, but the moonshot to me, the moonshot to me has just always been kind of this siren song off in the distance. You know what I mean?
Wait,
And
wait,
that,
wait. We brought some new models to. We brought two new
yeah,
OVNIs
yeah,
to intersect in LA.
okay,
An orange one that has,
hmm,
remember the Ooh La La Hydrogen we came
yeah,
out with that
yeah,
has
yeah,
it's a gradient orange.
hmm.
We did that with the OVNI, and there's a powder coated blue one.
Oh.
And we brought a bunch. We sold three at Intersect in LA. We're going to bring them to Toronto, so keep an eye out for that.
I will do. But like you say, you get so many watches in when you're writing about watches that it often scratches that itch. But what I will say is that of late, I think Doxa is really knocking it out of the park. I would love to own a Doxa someday. I'm not sure it's one of the recent releases, but that Topper's Great White is a beautiful watch. The 300 Ti that they just did is a great watch. And was it yesterday that Hodinkee launched an LE with them? That is the Doxa Army, and I think that looks really cool too.
Different
So I
hands on
think
that one too.
Yeah, yeah, I think they're doing really cool stuff. It's kind of that remake, I guess, of the 1969 version of it. I like that a lot.
Mm.
Other brands that I think are stepping it up a little bit. Some of the stuff that Yema has released of late has excited me a bit. Like I really like the Barracuda. I've always been a big fan of the Superman case, but I also like the Skin Diver case. And I know some stuff is coming down the pipe from Yema because I've seen some press releases that I kind of find exciting. And I've done this of late, this kind of recent deep dive into Citizen. Like, you know, like um Tyler, who used to work with us, is now the assistant
Yep.
brand manager at Bulova, which is part of Citizen Group, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. Yep.
So he's been feeding us a lot more watches for review. And it made me really start thinking about, because I've always loved Seiko. It made me really start thinking about the subtle differences between the two brands, but the fact that, still, and I maybe even Citizen more than Seiko, are producing very affordable watches
Yep.
because you look around and you think, well, where has affordability gone? But, I was never really interested in the idea of eco drive until really, really recent. And, I think, it's a really cool bit of
Practical.
technology. Obviously, Citizen has doubled down on it. I don't know why it's any worse than my super quartz from my Breitling. So I find that the pricing on those watches is hyper competitive, and sometimes Citizen will go with a 20% sale on their website.
Oh yeah.
Often you'll go and a pop-up will come and say, enter your email for a 10%. So, you're looking at that and you're thinking, well, you mentioned like import duties and things like that. I find that obviously when you can get a watch on Canadian soil, like you can from Citizen Watch Canada, and you're getting this deal, like you look at that and you think like, because you and I are used to spending thousands of dollars on a watch, you look at that and you think, that comes up to like 625 Canadian dollars. What? That's all? Like the
And you
recent,
get a lot
yeah,
of
the
watch.
one they just sent me, and it also is an eco drive, but it really leans into kind of I'm gonna forget the reference number on it, but the Fujitsubo, the challenge
Mm.
diver.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks a lot like that. I think that is one that comes in at $625. It looks fantastic. Like it's all you need for a summer jump in the lake watch.
Absolutely.
And it gives you all that sort of
And
that
if you don't wear it
vintage
for 2 or
vibe.
3 months, it'll put it in a dark place, it'll stop itself,
Yeah.
and then when you pull it out, it goes back
Yeah.
to timing, and you even lost a minute.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I mean, like I look at that and I think, yeah, I know that there's pie in the sky things I dream about. Before the show started, you and I were talking about IWC. There's some beautiful watches
mm,
from IWC I would love to own. But really, I mean, if you want to crack into the watch collecting hobby, there's so much out there under a grand still, even
yep,
today.
agreed.
Um, Interesting. I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent here, but Fratello posted this article, or maybe it was even just an Instagram post or something like that, but it was comparing the SKX to the new Seiko Sumo.
Yes.
And they were saying, is the new SKX? And I mean, no shade on what they wrote because it's very interesting what they say, but I'm not sure that's true.
No,
Like
I don't think
you
so.
look at the Seiko Sumo and it's like 1,238 Canadian dollars. I know because I
Yep,
just looked at it because I was curious.
yep.
For that same $1,238, now remember, we're still talking about Seiko. And again, no shade on Seiko, but you take a look at the movement that's in there, et cetera, et cetera. You can get a Mito Ocean Star 200 for a little bit less than that. Canadian, it's like 1,100 something.
That new one, 40 millimeters, is spot on.
It is gorgeous. Though
It's
I even love
amazing.
the colorway is fantastic.
They fixed everything I didn't like about the previous model.
Yeah. And somebody might say, okay, but I want that Seiko look. Well, you know what? Like the Mito Ocean Star actually has that very classic look too, with some tweaks in the colorway and everything that's really great.
And the day date makes it look a
Yeah.
little bit like the Seikos.
And Momentum does
Mm.
another one. I'm gonna forget the name of the watch right now, Aqua something, but anyway, it looks like a
Oh,
fantastic watch as well. It's $720
and solar.
versus 1,200. Yeah. So, and now a Doxa sub 200T is actually the price of a Seiko Sumo,
Yeah,
Canadian.
yeah.
So I feel a little bit like, Seiko is obviously migrating north. Sure, you can still get a Seiko 5 for less than that or whatever, but that's not necessarily the watch I'm looking at, right? Um, but still, there are a lot of really cool little deals out there. I mean, look at a Mito or a DS Action Diver from Certina or something like
Oh,
those
those
are
are
great
amazing. That new
watches.
2,000
Like,
meter diver has got.
yeah.
You asked me what I was looking at. That's one that was seriously the Certina. DS, whatever it's called, the
Mm.
2000 meter that just came out with the teal
Yeah,
dial or the
yeah.
white one. That is such a cool watch for so little money.
And in North
Swatch Group's
America
kicking
or
some ass at that.
particularly Canada, you're not getting maybe the same name recognition, but over in Europe, Mito and Certina are just
They're
like as
everywhere.
much as like saying Tissot and Hamilton. You know what I mean? Just
Edox. When I was
yeah.
in
Oh,
Greece last year, Edox, they've got more divers than you can shake a stick at, and they're all
yeah.
cool looking and they're all very reasonably priced.
Mm. No, I saw. So I guess like that's a very long answer to a very short question. But like, there ultimately, you and I have lamented even personally about the price of watches climbing, et cetera. We talked about it with James Stacy on the last podcast, and I understand that obviously with the price of the cost of a Swiss franc and the rising labor and all that kind of stuff, the prices are going to migrate north. But you know what? When you take a look at a watch like those Mitos, those Certinas, et cetera, that are coming in at just around the $1,000 mark, maybe a little bit more. And again, we're talking Canadian here. These would be under $1,000 American.
Yep.
Um, those are fantastic watches, and you wouldn't have to feel shy to walk into a Red Bar meetup wearing a really great looking watch like that. You know?
And
Mm.
Longines clearly can do it.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Hydra Conquest, I've harped on it a million times online. I've done redesigns of it on Instagram
I
for fun.
actually liked that last one.
That is a very well priced watch. It's incredible.
Very
I wanna
aggressively
I wanna
priced.
touch on 2 things. One, Citizen. I've always been a fan of those Aqualand craziness
Oh
watches.
yeah.
When I was a kid, my father somehow had subscribed to, Service Merchandise. I don't know if you know what that is. It's like a
Yep.
catalog,
Catalog came in. Yeah.
but it's in the US. I don't know how my father got into that, but they used to send us not a catalog, but like a magazine every month,
Mhm.
and there was always a watch section, and in that were the crazy Aqualand Citizens that I used to go crazy over and like. And I remember when I was in my late teens, we used to go to Plattsburgh to shop and smuggle stuff over the border. But anyways, smuggle, I mean, purchase T-shirts, like 5 T-shirts, wear them all, and come back with them on. But anyways, there was a Surface Merchandise counter there, and they had watches, and I used to just beeline straight to it, go see it, those crazy Citizens. I love those things. In fact, I'd bought a ProMaster time only 3-hand with a left-hand crown
Mm,
in like '93
very cool.
on a rubber strap, and it had gold accents. It was the coolest thing. Like, I don't know, I don't think I've ever seen another one like that. And then the other thing was Momentum. I was digging around their website. There's an authorized dealer in Vaudreuil, like literally next exit on the highway from me.
Yeah.
And apparently they have inventory. Like, can't wait to go see because I've only
Well,
seen these
that's the
online.
sea quartz is gorgeous.
Sea
Like
quartz.
it has that Monet styled case and everything, and like it's
Yeah, well, that's
fantastic.
the watch Magnum PI wore in
Yep.
the first episodes
Mm,
or the first season or two of
yeah.
Magnum PI.
Wesley Wright just reviewed it for us because they had passed him one for a few days.
Cool.
And boy, I look at that watch and I look at the price of that watch. That's even cheaper than the one I mentioned a minute ago
I
by
know.
Momentum. This one's like maybe 500 Canadian.
Yeah, I think
Like
it's like 4 something. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I bet you they probably an offer just 'cause I'm gonna go see that might be trouble. I probably should go see it.
The rest of our day is now taken. I know.
Actually, I got so much work to do today. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, that's where we're planning. Anything you're looking forward to as far as events? You get some travel coming on. I think you said you're gonna go to Geneva?
Yeah, so just before the Toronto Timepiece show, we are headed to Geneva, and I say we because Bob and I are actually going along together on this trip, and it's kind of with Micro
I
Milspec.
wasn't even invited.
Micro Milspec has kind of invited us along, and it's really interesting because all they really want us for is September 1st, which is technically the day before Geneva Watch Days kind of really kicks off, and so there's like a breakfast with this brand called Cavassino that I met, and I met Didier Cavassino the last time I was there. Love his stuff. Love him as a person. He worked a decade with Rolex, so his knowledge is incredible. And then we have a kind of a lunch date, and then we have a cocktail and dinner with like Micro Milspec, Furlan Mare, Vauxhall, maybe Laurent Ferrier. I'm not sure. But so that's going to
Heavy
be a
hitters
really
there.
fun day. Yeah. And Bob and I will have the whole day on the 31st just to do whatever. We don't really have a plan. And then because I'm kind of in that press camp, I was getting dozens and dozens of invites to different things. And so I thought, you know what? Talk to Theo from Micro Mouse Spec, say, well, what's the plan for the week? Should I be making some plans? And he says, yeah, man, after the first, it's whatever you want to do. So I made some great plans with Tutima, Bell and Ross, going back to see Trilobe, Urwerk, I think probably close to 20 different brands I've set up one-on-one appointments with, and Bob's going to come along. So we're going to get lots of great content, see lots of really cool watches.
I'm very jealous right now.
And I still built into there good long periods for lunch and some afternoon sightseeing. So yeah, so that's, I think it's going to be a really cool trip. I'm really
I
glad
want
to
to
be
see
going.
you and Bob go to lunch, have a lot of beer, and then go to those meetings and
Yeah.
record.
Yeah.
I would pay good money to watch that.
We
That'd
got
be
a
funny.
a big meeting with the Urwerk that's like 2 hours long or something like that, and that's right after lunch. So maybe we'll experiment with that one, maybe.
Airwork, those watches are so cool. Oh my
Yeah.
god. I got to play with a couple of them in New York. Chris, Chris
Okay.
Alley had
Yeah.
one on a white gold. Boy, was it cool, man.
Yeah.
Jesus. He's got the
I'm looking forward.
most amazing collection.
Mm. And then after Toronto, Caroline and I are headed back to Stockholm to do our work with Kaplan's Auction House, because their
Oh yeah.
big auction, their important watches auction takes place in November 14th. So we're going to go around October 14th. And because we've seen Stockholm once already, we're going to do our work there, visit our friends at Kaplan's, and then I think we're going to do the high-speed train to Oslo and just
Why
have
not?
a fun 2 or 3 days there before flying home.
This
So
is the
yeah,
second year in a row that you're doing this Kaplan auction thing, right?
yeah, yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. You guys look like you had a lot of fun last year.
It was a blast, and the people at Kaplan's are fantastic too. I mean, it does a lot more than watches, but the people who are involved in the watches, there's a photographer that just does amazing work for their catalogs and things, and the guy who sits at the front of the store, because they got heavy security there. He's also a big guy, and he's not even security, but no, just loves to talk watches, big Panerai fan and stuff. So I'm just enjoying going back there, and of course, uh, the our best friends are work there too. So we're gonna have a good time, I think, and then throw in a little bit of a vacation there at the tail end of it. And yeah, that's the ones that are sort of set in stone at the moment. So, and then maybe coast into Christmas after that.
Yeah. Our last show is Intersect in Austin in November.
Okay.
I think that's gonna be our last. I mean, Jose is all over the place. Get this. I'm just gonna pull up the schedule. I wrote a blog post on our blog on isotopewatches.com,
Hmm.
and it's pretty nuts. I mean, so we just came back from Los Angeles, Charlotte, September 18th, 19th, also Intersect. Then Toronto Timepiece Show in September 26th to 27.
Yeah.
Then he's going to the Waro Bucharest Watch Fair, October 11th.
Oh wow.
Then the Hype in New York City, October 16th to 18th. Then he's going to Dusseldorf. Actually, I think that might be tentative. He's not confirmed yet with the Dusseldorf show for watch time. Then Intersect in Austin, November 6th and 7th. And then he's finishing the year, I think, at Spring Sprung in Singapore.
My goodness. He gets
So
around, eh?
he gets around, man. That's nuts.
Mm.
I don't know. September is going to be pretty busy, man. Charlotte and Toronto are going to be a lot. I don't know if I'm going to stay at the Novotel this year. Last year, I was not comfortable at all.
Oh really? Oh, I loved our room actually. We had a
Yeah,
very
maybe
big
it was
room.
just my room then, because the bed was, my back was shot. I mean, Chris Ansoulis too stayed there, and he had the same problem, but he had arrived a day early in Toronto and spent the day walking around Toronto with Anna all day with his really heavy backpack on his back. And by the time the show started, his back was already bothering him. By Sunday, he had to leave early because he was too much pain. He had to go home.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the bed combined with his backpack, but my back was shot too. My bed was really, really bad.
Well, we're actually going to go in probably a couple of days early because Omega is doing these sort of desk sides, and I'm going to go to one. I think it's on the 23rd or the 24th, and so I'm going to go in and see some of the upcoming launches and stuff like that. And I know they have some other really cool stuff coming out at the end of this month too, but I got to keep my lips sealed on that.
All right, you're gonna show me later.
But
Yeah, I need to about this.
yeah, so yeah, it's a well, there's always something on the go for sure.
Well,
But
don't you gotta get you have to get there early in order to get all the magazines, no? And coordinate all the.
we normally have to be there for the Thursday no matter what. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you having them shipped to Bob's house?
That's not such a bad idea,
Chuck
because when we have them
beep,
shipped here,
beep,
I don't know if
beep
I
on his
ever,
driveway.
I don't know if I ever mentioned this to anybody, but like when we get things shipped here, because we're rural, they actually charge us a surcharge, and the surcharge is per kilogram.
Oh, yeah.
So when we have 1,000 magazines shipped here, it goes from like, I could ship them to Dan Mann in Vancouver, who's not rural, obviously, and it would cost about $192. And our printer is in North York, in Ontario. And if we get that same shipment shipped here, it's $780. So, so what we do is we ship it to a guy in Brockville who's kind of tentatively like a UPS. It's actually a health food store, but he's actually a UPS shipper as well. And so I know him. So I said, "Look, man, how would you feel about holding 15 to 20 boxes for a day or two, and I'll come and grab them." But then we got to load them into the truck, and we got to drive them all the way to Toronto. So maybe Bob also owns a truck. Is the solution to all that problem.
Bob's the solution to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live rural as well. I can't help you. Although Salazar is pretty close to the city, but I'm out in the woods, so. Yeah, that's pretty much what's going on, what we've got planned, our hopes and aspirations, our dreams. Hopefully, while we were talking, got an email from our guest today. He had a scheduling conflict, and hopefully we'll be able to reschedule for another time because I think it'd be a really fun guest to have.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we said, we're trying to get people from outside our nerdosphere, and but still watch adjacent, like James Stacey would say.
Mhm.
And this guy would be the perfect guest. I mean, he'd be a lot of fun, and we had prepared some really good questions. I think we had a good lineup, and maybe Bob will be able to participate in the next one. So let's
Yeah.
try to get that done.
Right. Well, good talking to you this morning,
Yeah,
Mark.
great talking to you too. It was nice having a little mini hostful, impromptu. I'm going to title this accidental hostful or something like that.
Awesome. You have a great weekend, buddy.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you in 2 weeks. The Time to Calibrate podcast is a bi-weekly show and is available wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a question or a comment? Email us at timetocalibrate@gmail.com, or you can find us on Instagram at Time to Calibrate. If you haven't given us a follow or a review yet, please do so. This helps platforms recommend us to like-minded listeners. You can also follow us individually on Instagram. I'm at Mark Time to Watch. Bob is at Time to Go 1978, and Brent is at Caliber 321. Also, be sure to check out Bob's Time to Go Travel and Timepieces YouTube channel, and be sure to visit thecalibratorist.com for all your watch-related news, editorials, and reviews. Lastly, if you like our show, do tell a friend. Heck, tell lots of friends. We'd greatly appreciate it. That's it for now. T2C out.